There is a moment at the end of season 7 of Rick and Morty that changes everything. It's not a big explosion, it's not a sci-fi battle, it's just a teenage boy standing in a Denny's bathroom realizing that the person he worships might not actually care if he lives or dies. For 7 years, we have watched Morty Smith follow his grandfather into hell and back. We've watched him get traumatized, broken, and rebuilt. But the season 7 finale, Fear No Mort, didn't just give us a scary adventure. It gave us the answer to the biggest question in the show's history. Is Morty irreplaceable? Today, we are diving into the fear hole. We're gonna break down exactly what happened in this mind-bending episode, untangle the complex web of fake realities, and explain why this specific 20 minutes of animation proves that the old Morty is dead. Welcome to the channel, let's jump in. The episode begins with a classic setup. Rick and Morty are at a carnival, bored out of their minds. They've seen everything the galaxy has to offer, so standard haunted houses just don't cut it anymore. That is, until a strange man in a suit tells them about the scariest place in the universe. And naturally, because this is Rick and Morty, the scariest place in the universe isn't a dark dimension or a torture planet. It's a Denny's. Specifically, the men's bathroom at a Denny's. The man explains the rules. There is a hole in the floor. You jump in. The hole manifests your greatest fear. You conquer it, and you climb out. It sounds simple. A classic hero's journey in a dirty restroom. Rick, being Rick, is skeptical. He thinks it's a gimmick, but Morty is curious. They decide to take the plunge. And this is where the reality of the episode begins to fracture. Almost immediately, the fears start manifesting. At first, they are superficial. Monsters, maggots, gross out, body horror. Rick and Morty handle these easily. They are veterans of sci-fi horror. After all, they punch the monsters, they survive the gross stuff, and they climb out. They think they've won. They're sitting back in the Denny's booth, celebrating. But then, something strange happens.
Do me a favor, please. Get out of here.
They return home, and suddenly, Diane, Rick's dead wife, is there. She's alive. She's young. This is the first red flag. The show has established that Diane was erased from all realities. Her existence here is impossible. Rick and Morty realize the truth. They never left the hole. This is the central mechanic of the episode. It's a loop. Every time they think they've escaped, the hole reveals that they are actually still trapped inside, peeling back layer after layer of their psyche. The episode then takes a heartbreaking turn. The hole tempts Rick with his ultimate desire, getting his wife back. We see a version of Rick who is vulnerable. He wants to stay in the simulation. He wants to be happy. Morty theorizes that this is his fear, that if Rick gets Diane back, Rick won't need Morty anymore. But as the episode progresses, the fear simulations get more abstract. They live entire lifetimes. They grow old. They act in plays. The reality shifts become rapid fire. They escape the hole, then realize they're still in it. They escape again, realize they're still in it. It becomes a psychological torture chamber designed to make them question what is real. But amidst the chaos, Morty notices something off about Rick. In these simulations, Rick is different. He's supportive. He's emotionally available. When Morty starts spiraling, this version of Rick grabs him and says,
What did you say?
I said I'm not leaving you in here. Come on, you're irreplaceable. Irreplaceable.
It's the thing Morty has wanted to hear for 7 seasons. It's the validation he craves, and that is exactly why it's fake. Morty stops. He looks at this supportive, loving grandfather, and he realizes the terrifying truth. Rick would never say that. The real Rick wouldn't jump into a hole to save him with a speech about love. The real Rick is distant. Morty realizes that Rick isn't in the hole. Rick never jumped in. Morty has been alone this entire time. The Rick he has been talking to, fighting with, and bonding with for the last 20 minutes is just a manifestation of the hole. It's a part of Morty's own mind. Morty confronts the fake Rick. The illusion shatters. Morty climbs out of the hole, alone, and there sits the real Rick Sanchez. He never jumped in. He was just waiting for Morty to finish. It's a quiet, devastating ending. Morty doesn't tell Rick what happened. He just pins a photo of his fear on the wall, and they leave. Now that we've refreshed our memory, we need to talk about what this actually means. Because Fear No Mort isn't just a clip show of scary moments. It is a fundamental deconstruction of the show's core relationship. Here are the 3 layers of the fear hole that change everything. Chapter 1: The Diane Deception. For a long time, fans thought the ultimate fear of the show belonged to Rick. We assume Rick is the main character, so the hole must be about him. When Diane appears, we, the audience, fall for the trap. We think, oh, this is Rick's fear, he's afraid of losing her again. But remember the twist, Rick isn't there. This means every interaction between Rick and Diane we saw in this episode wasn't generated by Rick's subconscious. It was generated by Morty's. This is huge. This means Morty has spent so much time obsessing over his grandfather's lore and backstory that his own subconscious can perfectly simulate Rick's dead wife. Morty understands Rick's trauma so intimately that he can construct a heartbreaking romance between them in his head. It shows that Morty is no longer just a sidekick. He is a student of Rick Sanchez. He knows exactly how Rick hurts. And Morty's fear here wasn't just Rick leaving me, it was Rick finding happiness. The whole argues that Morty believes Rick can only love him if Rick is broken. If Rick is healed by having Diane, Morty becomes obsolete. That is a dark, dark look into Morty's self-worth. Chapter 2: The Perfect Father Figure. Let's talk about the fake Rick, the entity in the hole. Throughout the episode, this version of Rick is actually a great guy. He encourages Morty to face his fears. He stays with him for decades. He tells him he loves him. Why is this Morty's greatest fear? It's the uncanny valley of emotion. Morty is terrified of reliance. The transcript explicitly gives us the key line. Morty realizes,
I'm afraid that if I jumped into a hole, you wouldn't even bother jumping in after me. You'd just stand there and watch.
The hole tried to trick Morty by giving him what he wanted. A Rick who cares. A Rick who jumps in. But Morty's cynicism won out. He knows deep down that the real Rick is a narcissist. The tragedy of this episode is that Morty overcomes his fear by accepting that Rick is a bad person. Think about that. To beat the game, Morty had to admit to himself, my grandfather doesn't love me enough to save me. Once he accepted that sad truth, the illusion broke. He grew up by lowering his expectations of Rick to 0. Chapter 3: The Death of Codependency. This leads us to the most important part of the video, the ending. When Morty walks out of the bathroom, he is shaken. He sees the real Rick. And what does Rick say?
You didn't go in at all?
No, it's a one-person ride.
Rick didn't jump in because he didn't care? No, Rick didn't jump in because he knew he couldn't help. Or maybe he was too scared of his own fears. But the crucial part is Morty's reaction. In season 1, Morty would have cried. He would have screamed, "Why didn't you save me, Rick?" In season 7, Morty just says,
I get it. It's fine.
this is the death of their codependency. Codependency is when you need someone else to define your own reality. By surviving the hole alone, Morty proved to himself that he doesn't need Rick to save him. He saved himself. The dialogue at the end is masterfully written. Rick asks,
Are you afraid we're still in it?
Morty replies,
I mean, I hope we're not, but if we are,
We'll find out eventually.
which no longer scares me.
Same.
This is the philosophy of the episode. Uncertainty. Morty accepts that he might still be in the hole. He accepts that Rick might not care about him. He accepts that life is terrifying and uncertain. And in accepting that, he becomes fearless. He isn't the anxious, stuttering kid from the pilot episode anymore. He is a young man who has looked into the void and decided to go eat pancakes anyway. Fear No Mort is a masterpiece because it strips away all the sci-fi gadgets and laser guns. It leaves us with two characters in a diner. It forces us to look at the relationship between Rick and Morty and admit that it is toxic, one-sided, and messy. But it also shows us that Morty is going to be okay. He spent the entire series terrified that he was replaceable, that he was just a Morty. By the end of this episode, he realizes that even if he is replaceable to Rick, he is irreplaceable to himself. He leaves the fear behind, pinned to the bathroom wall of a Denny's. What do you think? Did Rick not jumping in make him a monster? Or did he know Morty needed to do this alone? And do you think they are actually out of the hole? Let me know your theories in the comments below. If you like this deep dive into the philosophy of animation, hit that like button and subscribe for the next episode, where we might tackle Kung Fu Panda or BoJack Horseman. Thanks for watching, and remember,
Nobody exists on purpose. Nobody belongs anywhere. Everybody's gonna die. Come watch TV.